Majid.
Good luck.
Good luck. What do I need luck for? You don't need luck if you forge your own destiny. Majid.
You don't need luck if you make your own destiny, huh? You still don't need luck? Lady Luck, huh?
Hey, hi, man. I haven't seen you in a while, Edward. What's going on?
Oh, not much. I've been just cleaning, on the weekend and studying for my certification. And I've been paying bills. I hate paying bills. I got everything on auto pay except this one credit card that just won't go on auto pay for me. And it's a pain in the ass. I hate paying bills. I don't mind transferring the money if it's done automatically. But having to sit down and actually do it every month, I hate doing it.
Especially when it could be automated. That's just, because we're so used to precise, quick service that
if El Normo's not there, there's no reason to be there. It gets even more boring. So I'm gonna take us back to Andrew's God Talk. I'm gonna go outside and do some landscaping. So exciting. Then I'm gonna take a shower. And probably swipe right on Hinge if I try to get a date. This girl that I was trying to see, I don't think she's interested in seeing me again, so time to move on. Let go of your memories in the past and try to enjoy life again. Let's see. Should I just leave us on Dirage?
To finding out who we really are and finding that true inner peace may take a little longer than it has to. And some people will never find that peace because they're not being true to themselves. You have to learn to start taking some time out for you. And one thing about it, which you will realize in the end.
What did you say?
You can't divorce the two, so it's I'm understanding phenomenal states as functional.
Well, analytically.
No, not analytically. I mean, because we're still in the synthetic realm here. We're still saying the identity is synthetic, right? But we're saying when we're fixing the metaphysical item that secures the identity, when we say that item satisfies a phenomenal concept, right? It's like pain. Right. I wanted to address, because you had said it sounds like it's illusionism at that point. But I just want to say that, if what you're rejecting as an illusionist just is, the intrinsic nature of phenomenal states, right? If that's it, then yeah, I do agree with that. I still think that phenomenal states can be understood as phenomenal states without intrinsic nature.
So what do you take phenomenal states to be? So sorry, I'm probably not going to make this discussion. I'm distracted.
No, that's okay. I mean, I would probably. I'm fine with the way that you and I were talking about it earlier today, where you just pick them out by ostension. I don't have necessary and prohibited conditions for you. They're kind of experiential mental state, and I also think that they're physical, right? So I can say those kinds of things about it.
But just okay, if all you're willing to say about them is just I'm picking them out by assumption. So do you have some further theoretical commitments about them, or is that all just going to be okay, and they're brain states and so on? So then I do think that is literally just illusionism.
Yeah, no. Again, I'm not trying to say depending on how you characterize illusionism, maybe I am an illusionist, right? But the way that I like to talk about it anyway is to say that there are phenomenal states. can cross purposes.
Good. So we both agree, all parties to the dispute agree that there is some natural feature shared by some states that we can denote by just list examples of them. So it's there's something that's naturally in common between visual, auditory, and other modes of perception, between pain states, just I don't know, imagining things, dreaming, right? And that's not being blackout drunk and by being under total anesthesia and by circulating there's some
because some of the I think people who are blackout drunk actually may have immediate phenomenal states, but they just
I just mean people who are unconscious from drinking alcohol.
Yeah, if you're
if that's gonna be a problem, let's just show that example.
It just gets tricky
Being under total anesthesia, being in a total coma.
Sure.
And it's the illusionist is saying, okay, another feature of these states is that people are disposed to assign very special features to them, going beyond structural properties, having some sort of intrinsic character, and privileged access, simplicity. There's a bunch more. You get the idea.
Yeah, a lot of that.
And the other thing I want to say is that we are disposed to make those reports, but those reports are not veridical. So just what do you want to say about those things? What other commitments are you making?
I do agree with the illusionist about things like metaphysical privacy being wrong or illusory. Now, as far as privileged access goes, that one is a little bit tricky. So depending on what you mean by privileged access, there might be a comment.
I actually can't hear you right now. Sorry, give me a second.
Okay. Wait, what'd you say you're making? You're making pizza? Yeah, she still can't hear.
I was just looking at the Mahdi's manifesto. Has anyone heard of it?
No, it isn't.
I know, no.
Apparently there's a guy claiming to be the Mahdi, and he's put out a manifesto.
Oh, I thought you meant Mahdi,
Just lazy. You're not the real Mahdi.
Oh wait, was I? Sorry, I thought I was muted.
I was just waiting. Yeah, I didn't hear you say it.
No, but did you guys hear my blender go up?
A little bit.
Oh, okay, that's unfortunate.
It wasn't that bad.
Sorry, so okay, well, that's good. That's very positive reason.
So, I'm going to agree with some of what the illusionist has to say about, if you want to talk about things like the metaphysical privacy of the mental, or, privileged access, there's, some stuff where I think, depending on what you mean by, privileged access, that there could be some kind of, privilege, but not, a robust kind of, privacy level, you know what I'm saying? So, you're situated.
Well, just I'm asking, do you have any commitment that would distinguish you from the illusionists?
Yeah, I'm trying to get.
I'm
saying there's nothing that I'm going to agree with, but as far as the sort of the meta level of it, where they want to say that a phenomenal state a pain state, right? That doesn't really exist, and I guess if what you're denying, you could
I get into like the dispute, but because what I'm denying, or anyway, like I mean, I'm not sure if I'm an illusionist anymore, but like what an illusionist would be denying about a thing is just like, okay, clearly there is just like a functional thing. You can all agree on that, and there's something that's like the category that pain seems to fall into. It's just like what most people would think of as phenomenal states. Pain seems to fall into that category. And then it's like we're disposed to, on reflection, make certain reports about those states. And the illusion is saying those reports are not veridical. These reports bring non-physicality, non-structurality, intrinsicness, simplicity, privileged access. That's what they're doing. It's like I'm not saying. Do you like agree with that?
I agree with them on all those points, barring like how exactly what's meant by privileged access, because there's going to be some senses of privileged access that I would accept, but the place where I think
it's easier for you to have introspective access, but like it's not just like you have access to unbarred reality that no matter like what anybody else does, will be like getting a special look.
Right. Yeah. So I deny like the kind of robust metaphysical primacy of the mental. And the thing that I think I diverge with the illusionist on is the following. So I think that the phenomenal state, like if I have a pain state or something like that, or like visual phenomenology, right? I don't think that when I report of that what I'm describing isn't the real mental state that I have. I do think now here's what I do want to say though is the difference is I think you could give right a completely apt description using only concepts that involves functional concepts, right? But the point is that it also satisfies other concept systems like the phenomenal concept system. So what I want to say is this, right? Like you could talk about something just qua functional concepts, properties, whatever, property talk, quote unquote, right? I'm not reaffirming, right? But like if you want to use property talk, you could talk about the thing in terms of its functional property, right? But then the idea is that those very same properties. You can't go from in one system, right, of concepts, and deduce the other. But the thing does actually satisfy both. Like the phenomenal concepts are not like these concepts you were just mentioning, like privacy and so forth, right?
What's the concept of the phenomenal concept?
Yeah, so the concept of the phenomenal concept is like redness or something like that, right? So like if you have like a red visual phenomenon, phenomenal concept. Right? Or you could talk in terms of these phenomenal concepts like now on the if like in evolutionary terms like phenomenal states develop extreme forms of reward mechanisms. Mechanisms to sort of like cut through the higher order cognitive processes that are present to the
doing the work is the functional thing. And reward.
The idea that thinking functions is a way of conceptualizing. It's like,
Oh yeah, there we go.
in terms of
Oh yeah.
or you can think in terms of things like phenomenal concepts. And so the point is, it's the self-same that satisfies those different systems and concepts. So
The
it
federal
both can
report
be
today
thought of as a
predicted
functional
possible
state
catastrophic warming of
and
the
as a
Earth
phenomenal state.
by the 1990s with
Satisfying
strong climate change.
right? So it's the same thing that
I mean,
But the scientists are telling us that we
so it's fine that it satisfies both of them, but just like, I mean, you can have a case where like, but only one of them. First of all, it's like you want to say, okay, the content of this phenomenon.
So like they don't make the difference between like redness and pain, right? So like what I'm talking about when I say redness is like the thing that differentiates red or color phenomenology from like
Kitover reminded myself.
I would just say that is some intrinsic character of that.
Oh, she's still blowing me kissy faces.
That's what I think is distinguishing it from that what you want to deny.
Because she's still playing kissy face game.
Well, I don't think that the point is that I don't think the thing that's doing the satisfaction
She's still playing
of the
kissy face
concepts
game.
has an intrinsic nature.
She's still playing kissy face
But what I'm
game.
saying is the thing that does the satisfaction of the concepts happens to satisfy multiple different kinds of concepts that are not like a priori reducible to one another. So the idea is
Wait a minute, I plan on staying single.
The phenomenal side of the
no, but the point is that like what I want to say is that what seems to me that you say here when I offer this is that you say, okay, but like the property of the thing
Believe me,
that
I
satisfies
plan on
one
staying
concept
single and exploring.
is different from the property of the thing that satisfies some different concept, and that's where I kind of get off the. I kind of get off.
I plan on staying single this year and exploring the beach in my boat.
It's only one of those properties that does the cause.
Well, no. So the point is that like there are like
Season
causal
number 3.
concepts, right? And so when you want to think about
Believe me, I
thinking
plan on
causal
staying
terms,
single this year and
those are
exploring
the
the
concepts
beach in
you
my
use.
boat, season
Yeah.
3.
But you're still thinking about the same thing when you think about it in terms of other concepts. And so like let me think about how to phrase this.
She wants to just use my body.
There are distinctions within this thing such
She
that
put it. She can have
one
that. She can have.
aspect of it satisfies
can have it.
phenomenal concept, and separate
But if she wants to
cause
just,
efficacious
she wants to just use my body.
The idea is that it's literally the same thing
She can
that's
have
doing
it.
the
She
satisfaction.
can have it.
That's fine, but I don't think that means that both of them are doing causal.
I guess it just.
Like,
No, but the thing that does the causal work just is that one thing,
I
right?
guess I just need to schedule. But if she wants to just use my body as she put it, she can have it. I guess I just need to schedule a day in advance.
Yeah,
I'm still playing kissy face game. Believe me, I
I'm
both say
denying that like properties are real, right? So like I'm only using property talk.
like, however you phrase it, just like there are two aspects to that thing, and I can see how one of these aspects is causally efficacious. I have no idea how the other is supposed to be causally efficacious.
Right, and that's because one of them to the causal. Sorry, I think just switch. One of them relates to like the causal system of concepts, and the other just conceptually doesn't.
I mean, maybe let's do this thing. You agree that
Please don't scroll. I'm just.
Hey, seriously, if you're not identity between the concepts, right? There's just
they're the same thing, but all the theory says initially is just the extension of the phenomenal concept is going to be the same as the extension of the
She's still playing kissy face game, but believe me, I
whatever
think
those
single this year
right?
exploring
The
the
theory
beach
initially
and
doesn't make this player. And
she
then
also is doing one
lo and behold, we find ourselves
a schedule
in
thing.
a world where
well, which theory?
a very nice match between the phenomenal concept, like harmonizing with the functional concepts, that they happen to be coextensible. Right? And that, that is surprising. That's like very surprising.
No. So that's why. So what we've been talking about is like point one in the DM that I sent you, and then the point two is trying to address some of that louder stuff, the stuff about the fortuitousness of the identity, where I'm talking about like reward mechanisms, right? Like, so that's where I'm trying to address that point. I'm saying like, okay, in evolutionary terms or in like mechanistic terms, right? Phenomenal states which have like positive valence, say like pleasure, or like phenomenal states with negative valence, say like pain, are an extreme.
Like functional.
One more time.
Valence there is functional.
No, I'm using this in the sense of like the field, the phenomenal field.
I mean, I don't think evolution curves it.
No, but that's where I'm trying to bridge the gap, right? I'm trying to bridge the gap there, where I'm saying that, like, the reason why the states that promote survivability also have positive phenomenal valence, right? I'm trying to give a reason for that. And what I'm saying the reason for that is because this is an evolutionary solution to providing reward mechanisms for I have a feedback mechanism, right? It doesn't have to be reward. It could be the negative of reward, reward punishment, if you like. So that feedback mechanism.
This has to be wrong. Like, if you could derive that, then you just would have like a way of getting around.
I'm not saying this is a
phenomenal inverse. It's just that like everything about our world would have played out the same physically. Evolution would have gone the same way, and there could have been no qualia, or pain and pleasure could have been inverted. But like if you're just saying that there's some way that you can derive from just like evolution, that wouldn't happen. Like
It's not meant to be. It's not meant to be like an a priori derivation, right? It's meant to be giving you the sort of like metaphysical explanation on the evolutionary naturalist account, right, for the correlation, which is allegedly fortuitous.
Sure, but just not like the way explanation thing is supposed to work is just if I give you the facts about evolution, even if I give them to you like third personally, like ideally you should be able to tell me like, okay, what is selected for and why. So,
Right.
like my suggestion is just like, okay, all that evolution will care about is the physical stuff, right? But you agree that the physical
But I think that's all there
stuff
is.
is consistent with any like set of phenomenal concepts, at least conceptually.
No, but okay, yeah. Look, it's in the same way that like you can conceptually isolate like Clark Kent from Superman, right? But then I can give you the metaphysical account, which explains why, when you see Clark Kent go into a fucking phone booth and come out, or you see Clark Kent go into a phone booth and then you see Superman come out. Like, why does that happen? Well, it's because they're the same guy, And so the idea is like, okay, in this story, right? The point is that you're giving an evolutionary account, and you're saying like, okay, like maybe this is the way to understand. And again, it's not like a priori like necessitated, right? But the idea is that maybe this is why there's this correlation that seems fortuitous. And the idea is, okay, what if phenomenal states that have valences, like positive and negative valences, the way that pain and pleasure seem to have, right, are evolution's way of providing feedback mechanisms for the promotion of survivable behaviors in the case of organisms who have advanced cognition, right? Like, it's a way to cut through their sort of more rational mental processes to give them a reward or punishment or whatever you want, negative reward, whatever you want to call it, to promote the right behaviors for their survivability. So it's just like, that's one solution that evolution developed. It's not saying that it follows from evolution and naturalism or from these concept frameworks, right? It's saying like, maybe this is just what happened, right?
But just, okay, but if I just know, like, okay, like, I'm aware of what the trajectory of evolution is like, right? I have that information. Right, okay, so yeah, I have that information. Let's say like I'm some like advanced computer. I don't have this phenomenal concept. Can I derive just which phenomenal concepts are going to be had by the organisms produced by evolution? Is that like a derivation I can do?
I'm not exactly
clear. If you all the information about evolutionary history, can I say, okay, this is like the sort of states people are going to have associated with functional pain?
This being doesn't possess phenomenal concepts.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, then I don't think they would be able to derive. I don't think so. I don't think they would be able to derive the phenomenal concepts from that information.
Okay, would they be able to derive just the data of harmony?
Well, seemingly no, if they don't have the phenomenal concepts, because they wouldn't have them to say the heart get, right? So
it's like, I mean, okay, well, like, once you update, it's like my thought is now, like, we agree that let's also say that this thing learns just that this, like, theory you have, like, that the phenomenal concept strategy does correct. Even if it learns that that variety of identity theory is true, it still won't make a derivation.
Yeah, it has to have, well, if you want to say, like, is it sensitive to the harmony, or is it sensitive to, like, what we're sensitive to when we think about phenomenal concepts, then no, it's not, because it's devoid of that.
It's like I'm feeding the computer.
It's basically, the point is, what I'm saying is, it's devoid of a lens on the world. Right?
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, let's add to the supercomputer the knowledge of, like, or, you know, like a part of knowledge.
Yeah, I don't know if it would understand it.
Sorry, what?
I don't know if it would be able to, like, make sense of that theory, you know, without having that component, you know, where it, like, comprehends what a phenomenal concept is. So I don't know if it would be able to understand the content of the synthetic identity theory if it didn't have phenomenal concepts at all. You know, maybe it would, but
I got my foot, so I'm taking a break. I'm gonna be.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Truthy. The man of the hour. Why isn't Albedo Eastern Orthodox yet, Truthy? Why is he taking the Shahada? How can you let... Yeah, he's just going to let it happen, Albedo. I think it's because you're a Native American, Albedo. I think that's why he doesn't want you in. Albedo, have you ever looked at? Do you think perennialism extends to Mormon?
Yeah, I definitely think it could. Or at least it's like on the table.
What about Scientology?
I don't know if Scientology is like. What about Nazism? Mormonism.
Yeah, what about communism, since that's a religion according to...
Oh, yeah.
Dude, Elias is just like, oh, everything's a religion. You know, Harry Potter fandom is a religion. You know, being a sports fan is a religion. I mean, I have seen, like, to be fair to that kind of, like, argument, like, I have seen debate on, like, what is a religion? You know, and it basically boils down to, like, doing the what is a chair debate, you know? It's just like, look, man, there's, like, some things we call religions and there's other things we don't. Like, can we just, like, move on, you know? Like, here's a bunch of religions, you know? Do these other things actually seem relevantly... Yeah, it's not interesting because, like, if somebody wants to water down what it means to be a religion and then call me a religious person, it's like, okay, that's fine. I'm a religious person. Like, what is your religion? It's non-religious. That's my religion.
Atheism's a religion.
Oh my god. See, this is like the whole, it's like, is every proposition a religion? Like,
Yes, apparently. If you have thoughts about it, it's religious. They're religious.
if you believe the sky is blue, you are part of the blue sky religion. I do want to know why Sasha takes that guy, Jonathan Majors. I heard he was better in, like, the Loki show. I've seen a couple scenes from it. It seemed like, okay.
I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, I haven't kept up with Marvel since, like, Endgame happened. I really haven't seen. I was looking through them the other day where they have it separated now, so it's like, you know, the original, like, Infinity Wars, like, arc, and then they have the multiverse stuff, multiverse arc, and it's like, I really haven't seen any of the multiverse. Including that Spider-Man movie, which I kind of wanted to see.
Oh, I did see that one.
I think I saw Multiverse of Madness. I think I saw that one, Doctor Strange.
And I haven't.
Dude, somebody commented on that, you know that meme that I made with the modalities, and it's like Thanos with
Yeah.
the you go. Somebody was like, "Oh, you should have done temporal modality." And I was like, "Fuck, that would have been perfect."
Back to the drawing board.
Yeah, it's a funny. You know, Trudy. I think it was. You know that guy Josie. I think he was mentioned earlier by somebody.
I fart, yeah. I think it was fart.
Wait, what?
Wasn't it fart that
You
mentioned?
think Josie is? Josie is.
No, it's like
Clark mentioned it. I got you. Yeah. It might have been him. But yeah, he was like trolling John Lee the other day, and so he was pretending to be a pre-sub. And like, he basically ran Truthy's old argument, where the idea is that like, you can just like disjunctivize the whole thing, so you just make a bunch of like disjuncts, and so like, you have like Christian theism as one of the disjuncts, but then you're able to come up with a system of categories to like exhaust all the other views with like a finite string of disjuncts, and then you just eliminate the other one, And it was funny because he brought that up trolling John Lee about how precept is actually good. But yeah, as far as I know, nobody's done it.
No, they gave up that. I don't know what was that. Back when GIG was around.
No, they have done it. It's just called the totality of all apologetics. That's the support for premise one.
Yeah, it's like a million premise argument.
Yeah, give or take.
Holy shit. I was thinking about this earlier when that guy was talking about the problem of evil a little bit, with like gratuitous evils. And it is kind of weird, and I don't know why it's not framed this way more often, but it's like, okay, we can talk about morally sufficient reasons, and like we can grant that, like, okay, it's apparently gratuitous, but it's really not. Granted, there is a good reason for it, blah blah blah. But like, if you're running the critique where you're saying like, okay, our moral intuitions, according to them, it seems very implausible that there is some moral justification for this. That's the idea anyway. And when it comes to like God's omnipotence, it's just like, okay, but look, I mean, is it, even if you want to say, look, he could just have a reason, okay? It's like, yeah, he could, but he's omnipotent, so like, him having a reason in that case almost implies like not having better alternatives, And it seems incredibly implausible to say that like God didn't have better alternatives.
Yeah, but you're not God, so how would you know?
Yeah, and then that's just where like you're just accepting some kind of at least limited skepticism about a lot of shit.
I don't know. It's funny you say it because I've always felt like it's just really intuitive to me that there would be that epistemic gap. And really, if I think about a few things about like just how bizarre things might be from like the God's eye view. Like if I would imagine what the perfect balance between mercy and justice would be, all things considered. I'm not even sure, like, you know what I mean? Like, can I really get a grasp on that? My understanding was always to just have. Yeah, go ahead.
It's weird because it's like you think, okay, there's all these different ways reality could be, like they could be really weird, like so much worse than what we could possibly conceive, like, okay, and then from like a God's eye view who doesn't have any of these like cognitive barriers that maybe we have, it's even more bizarre, But it's like, okay, when you're reasoning such that you're like, okay, there has to be a mind at like the bedrock of reality. There has to be like a decider, at the bedrock of reality. It seems like, well, if it did turn out to be a perfectly good being, like, yeah, you got really lucky. It's almost it strikes me as like wishful thinking. It's like you're spiraling back down to the fundamental layer of reality, and like, yeah, if it has to be a person, I hope it's a good person.
Just seems to get into the nature of meta-ethics and semantics around good there. What good's picking out?
Yeah, but don't you think you could just as easily get like the exact same semantics of like a mirrored, like a purely evil person at the foundation of reality? Like that also presupposes, you know, the distinction between good and evil in the same way. You know?
Yeah, you just think of Stephen Law thing.
Yeah, or you know, I mean, Stephen Law does it a certain way. You can just think about it on your own terms of like, okay, let's say the only thing we are fixing is that the fundamental layer of reality has to be like a mind, a person, something capable of making decisions, you know, aware of everything, all powerful. Okay, and then we're like, okay, does that all require that it's good? I don't think so. So like, if we stop right before we get to all good, right? We give them every other property, and then it's like, okay, seems like there's some room for variability on his goodness, and whatever sort of like character he has is going to presuppose like the moral landscape or whatever you want to call it. Like, you know. So you're going to get that one way or the other, given that he has some kind of like moral character. And then why is it that he would be good, other than like we hope he would be, you know?
Well, it's just interesting to me that like God is the way God is necessarily, and our moral semantics, the thing that we intuit as good, picks out, you know, this kind of energy of God, and you could sit there and say like, oh well, it's just like how lucky we are that it ends up being quote unquote good, but the referent there of that good and why that would even seem intuitive in the first place seems to be that on theism, you know, there's some relation to the necessary being and us and our moral intuitions, and that's why that kind of even makes any sense for you to say, oh, we're just lucky that it's quote unquote good.
You just pulled the fast. You just tried to say that it's
That's the only one that pulled.
You even asked me that question.
Yeah, exactly.
But maybe an evil God would allow me to ask you that question in service of a greater.
Yeah, I mean, all these instances of good just make it that much worse when the hurricane takes your family away.
Exactly. And it's way more palpable in those terms. I mean, does it make sense to say like, oh, you know, like basically, I'm good, right? And so I'm only deceiving you into thinking certain things are evil, but really they're not. You know, like they're actually good if you understood them the way that I understand them, or something like that. You know, and then you contrast that with like the actual experience and saying like, okay, what if like there's an evil God that's trying to promote evil, and so the goods are there to make it more heartbreaking when something atrocious happens, right? And that seems to work.
You're just a pessimist.
I mean, it's like, you know, what kind of goods do we as individuals really experience where we're like, oh man, I'm glad that, you know, this genocide happened because at least I get to swim in my pool.
Yeah, the genocide was actually necessary for the feeling of the water to feel that nice.
Yeah, see, that almost seems selfish, doesn't it? It's like, oh, so that I can experience this awe, like all these other people had to suffer.
It was a butterfly effect.
I realize now how.
Yeah, it was a total butterfly effect. It just led from this little genocide over here to
could understand God's goodness in a different context, right? Like you could just say something like, goodness is just ontologically prior to evil in all possible worlds. So, like, there's
Why am I granting any of this creative?
Let's just say that
Well,
we can understand it
you
more
read
in
that
terms
because,
of,
like,
understand it in terms of like balance.
Yeah, balance makes some sense. This like has to start with I don't.
well, that's the whole thing, right? So, for example, you know how in physics, or at least in theoretical physics, people start with like symmetry, and then asymmetry gives rise to like higher order contingencies, or let's say more particular derivative states. I think it would be the same thing with regards to this notion of good, right? Because within this idea of good exists the potential for all different imbalances, let's just say. So you have to
Wait, why?
imbalance. It's just
Is imbalance bad or good? Imbalance.
Imbalance is what would be considered bad, right? That would be
right. So how is that part of the concept of good?
Well, it would be a subset of good, right? In all possible
wait.
worlds. So
Why? That's what I'm asking. No, it seems like it's like the contrary.
No.
You're saying balance is good and imbalance is bad. Then why is it that imbalance is part of the concept of balance, except just aside from just being its opposite?
Oh, so what about?
No, so I think it's improper to think of badness as some sort of dichotomous opposite, rather than goodness almost being constitutive of two types of badness, right? So it's like two types of extreme.
What? Wait, what? Are you saying two wrongs make a right? Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Okay, maybe I'm gonna get on board with this. It's starting to sound kind of basic to me now. So.
That's a
Three
really
left
good
make a
answer.
right.
Yeah.
No, it's sort of like Aristotelian in some sense, right? Where there's like a golden mean, and then like the central position is sort of like a reconciliation of what would otherwise be two extremes. But in a more simple example, for example, in a more simple way to understand it, at least in regards to the two wrongs making a right, you could say something like, all right, here's an analogy, right? And there's going to be some like imperfections with this analogy, but in order to say goodness is ontologically more like prior to like badness, you can say that for any given badness that's possible, it would be parasitic on goodness in the following way. So let's just say I have a number line, and for every positive number, I necessarily have a negative number, which in this analogy constitutes an inherent balance throughout like this infinite number line, right? So for every positive is a negative, therefore this number line is naturally balanced. But a potential subset of this number line might be some mereological way in which I can construct an imbalance by abstracting numbers out of this line into some finite perspective. Or
okay, so we're saying like if I have a scale and like I have weights on either side, right? You want to say the scale system is in balance, right? But if I just focus on like one of the weights on the negative side, let's say, that thing is imbalanced in itself.
No,
what you want to say?
Depends what you mean by focus, right? I don't know. I don't think it's merely like
isolate, like sort of just consider it in isolation.
Isolation. I mean, it's not merely like some, let's say, epistemic threshold.
I just mean like the way that I'm saying the way that we're thinking about it.
Sure, right. Like what's happening is like we're abstract out of this number line that in and of itself is inherently balanced and full.
Is what you're saying that the number line is balanced, but it's made up of individuals which themselves are not balanced.
No. It's made up of individuals that can be let's say, abstracted and rebundled into ways that would reflect an imbalance in themselves intrinsically. So I could say, I could build a subconstruct that takes 3 number positive side of the integer, side of the line, and in my let's just say partition.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm saying. I get it.
Oh, okay.
I think we're saying the same thing.
Yeah, that's the general thought.
Tell me if you know what Realme earbuds are.
No.
Is that like a known company?
What are those? No, I don't know. It's the answer.
Sounds
Okay,
like
hold
some
up.
off-brand Amazon shit.
I think you're thinking of Real Doll Buds.
I don't think so.
You should get some Stasis Audio headphones, by the way. I don't know if you guys.
You should get some fucking Apple AirPods and join that.
No, real talk. Real talk. They're on another level.
I don't like iPhones. I don't like Apple.
JLab is pretty good.
I like Gay Lab.
Okay, sorry. Found your calling JLab if you want. JLab. Yeah.
You don't look like an athlete. I look like an athlete.
Yeah, but it's fine. But it's not bad.
They look like no sprinklers.
Yeah, look, I
Hey,
I'm just saying,
Larry,
pretty
can you
look.
come up here? Because, yeah, that was some very serious allegations about your moral status. I don't know, I should like to discuss this.
Who?
Lenny.
Oh.
Ethan was basically seen as evil, and it seemed like there was kind of broad endorsement of that.
Delicious.
Yeah,
Yeah, just for the pizza.
what with vegan cheese?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just kind of fucked myself because I just realized I miscalculated something. It's only 84 grams. Bro. Oh, funny. Sorry. So I wouldn't be so confident talking on this thing after I got whooped by Joel. Yow.
Oh, yo, I was just thinking my actions. I'm not saying.
You got cooked. This trick is saying retarded shit, just making up fucking words and shit.
Yo, I will say.
Unfalsifiable.
Yeah, he was all unfalsifiable. You shoot the shit up now, bro.
It was really funny because I keep going into these Rodrigo rooms, and Trudy's been talking to Rodrigo, and I'll join, and then periodically he'll go, "Okay, can you bring Sully up now?" And he's trying to pokeball me against.
To be fair, Sully, I try to pokeball everyone against Rodrigo.
Yeah, Sasha, have you talked to Rodrigo?
Yeah, that needs to happen, bro.
I don't think I have.
Oh, you need to.
Cool.
See, that would be
Can
hilarious.
we have Godless Boy versus Rodrigo round 2?
Rodrigo just
That would be a train wreck.
Hey, Josh spoke to Rodrigo.
Yeah, you're the one who told me about it, remember? Fucking, he was like screaming his head off at Rodrigo. Then Rodrigo like kicked him out of the room and it's like, "Good day."
Where is that?
So then if you find a picture of
Send it.
Rodrigo.
Good day. Say again?
Then if you find a picture of Rodrigo.
I think he had his picture. He had his picture.
Yeah, he had his picture for a while. He looks like a silverback Benicio del Toro.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just want to see the picture.
You have to ask it. Yeah, you debate him and make that the price.
And any available feed pics.
Are you gonna work with Rodriguez?
I don't think so.
He's so lucky. Because like Rodrigo basically flirts with everyone. Like that's not really like
His voice is very like ASMR.
Wait, Sam and him have beef apparently.
No. We watched the beef and we had a long conversation about like aesthetics and stuff like that.
By the fire.
And then he thinks that people that want to be like libertarians, live off the grid, should be like basically shot like these stuff, which I thought was funny.
Stalkers.
I'm kind of strawmanning him to be honest, but like
That is super based though.
Let's get Melis to talk to. No. To be
triangles.
Yeah, you believe the number 4 is spelled like F-O-O-R.
It's horrible.
Nah, but for real, we should.
At least you don't believe that.
Freedom versus the world.
At least you don't believe that ants can talk to Solomon and believe that know who Solomon is by name.
Yeah, but on what modality can they not do that, Sam?
We don't know what they can think about.
No, that's like the philosophical highlight reel. You know, you like present arguments to people and they just take the front. Like when Andrew, and I did that. I'm not allowed to bring it back up. So the Schmantism stuff. And then Andrew just went full BHI. I was like, which Jew? Who is a Jew? He's like, wait, what?
Well, Andrew doesn't know which rule he's following, so he doesn't know if BHI is a misattribution of who the correct Jews are, or, you know, like...
Yeah, Mahdi thinks that ants can, like, talk to each other and, like, know concepts in their head.
Oh, how do you know? Do you have
Have you seen the movie that my guy is from, the PFP?
Ants?
Oh, yeah.
No, I've only seen the movie.
Also, you have a buzz.
You saw Bean movie, Sam? Oh my god. I mean, it deserves the buzz it got, you know? Yeah, of course.
Oh,
It's talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, whole, it's like this advanced civilization of nuts, and like they beat up the black guy who's like so strong, and he's like killed Thor and everybody.
So they got that part right too.
Right, and then like his ants beat him up, that's like stupid.
Yeah, also, I want to say Sully was fully vindicated by Sam. I asked Sam what MFM meant, and he went, yeah, well, he vindicated him.
I mean, see, it's all, all questions about porn, you can just, like, put in my way.
No, but it's
See, I realized it didn't even have to be a porn. I shouldn't have said it's a porn thing, which was the first thing I said, because it can just be like...
Oh, for you.
Like I told you, it could just be you're seeking a certain kind of freedom, you know, in real life.
Right, on the website, something.
No, it doesn't. Look, doesn't it can be Craigslist. You can do a paper article, or you could post it. You could put it up on a post board and tweet your phone.
William Lang Craig.
You know when you can like leave up, you know, you just like leave up a little poster and it has like rip off the phone number.
I feel like you're gonna get a lot of.
You could write it on you could write it on the inside of a bathroom stall and put your.
What the fuck are you
doing?
If you put a personal ad up and you say like looking for FM,
yeah,
something like that, like.
Oh, okay. Sorry, no, I thought you were trying to say it's non-sexual.
No.
Oh yeah. You're saying it's not porn, but it's still sexual.
Oh yeah.
What does that mean?
So just to be clear, you're saying like you'd just be sitting in a bathroom stall and just.
Yeah, whenever I'm doing coke.
Yeah, for MFM, call this number.
Whenever I'm doing coke and toilet seats in Brooklyn dive bars, there's lots of numbers there that I. That's how I get all the dates that I get. You know what I mean?
Why would you not think that's like an initial rather than a fucking? Oh yeah.
Or you ever see those things like there's like on the dating apps, people like it'll be two people, you know? Like they'll just be like
yeah, there's a whole
like not even just couples. It's like me and my buddy, you know, are looking for like
there's
either another pair. It's weird. It's fucking weird.
There's a dating app called like
those people.
There's a dating app called like Field, I think, and then it's explicitly for them.
If they're specifically a three-way, like
they're
dating apps just to get involved in, but it's for
yeah.
But it's for three. It's
for anyone.
That's one type of three.
So yeah.
There's different types.
There's only two types of three-ways, guys.
No, there's like
there's four. Never mind. I'm sorry. My bad.
Straight sense.
I'm a retard. I'm a fucking retard for saying this too.
Yeah.
did you guys have your psychophysical harmony debate?
I was making pizza segment.
I-
Oh no, sorry, you mean with Sam? No, I was.
Yeah.
I was debating with Sasha, and then Sully was like, "Yeah, let me butt in real quick," and then
Yeah.
just kind of like fucking
And then
elbowed me.
Many such cases.
Whoa, shots fired in the chat. Oh my god.
To be fair,
Alright, so
like at least 50%
Like
of the
gloves?
time,
Oh.
at least 50% of the time, Sully butts in on my stuff. I'm getting like tired of talking to the person anyway.
Yeah, I was already getting tired of Sam's shit. Fucking guy. I don't want to talk to him again.
This fucking guy.
Sasha,
I had one in the chamber there, Sam. I'm sorry. I had like just the Sasha right prior to you guys picking up on talking about that.
I get it. You were ready to bust. You're looking for an FML.
Always looking.
Well, that situation sounded like it was a male, female.
Yeah, what?
That was an X on it.
Yeah, I should have just said Eiffel Tower.
For sure.
Yeah.
Timothy would have understood Eiffel Tower.
Is that?
Sully, when you come to the threesome, you shouldn't kick the other guy out. You know what I mean?
That's etiquette. That's poor threesome etiquette. You're right.
Exactly.
Timothy, I might need your to return the favor I did to you.
Since I have real quick. I know. But real quick, since I have a diverse group of white guys and a black guy who knows them very well, I like to play this little game. It's
Who's
called.
the black guy?
I don't know. I don't know if he wants me to tell. But since I have this set of dynamics, I like to play this game. It's called this fucking N-word, right? And so,
You already played it before you got your country.
no. So the game is the game is if Sam or I want to do it like a head-to-head between Sam and Sully. No homo. Which one of them in an argument with a black guy is most likely to think to themselves? This fucking now.
The answer is Sam.
So, Timothy, I'm gonna need your help since in the case that you know these guys very well. I have my own thoughts. How do you want to do this? How do you want to do it?
Sasha doesn't need any provocation.
I can put my vote in the chat, and you can say it out loud after I put it in the chat. Just promise don't look.
I want to say, I think Terry G-Logan is like a lot of G-Logan. I think Sam Sully's like a diehard kind of liberal, and he's like a bleeding heart for minorities.
I mean, Sam and Sully.
Really?
Sam and Sully, I actually just to like, some more data, right? So Sam and Sully were having an argument the other day in Sam's room about whether or not
Yo, guys, let's
black
sweat.
people, about whether or not black people being mean to white people on Clubhouse is representative of like black people's like bloodlust against white people, and like whether or not like what white people should do about this threat to their race. And Sully was taking the position that it isn't representative and we shouldn't do white nationalism. Sam was, probably understandable.
I don't think this adds any more context. I think we already kind of. My vote is for Sam. My vote is for Sam.
I just want to say this one thing.
Hold on, guys. To make it more. Okay, for sure, I'm more likely to think it. Sully, I don't even think lets himself think it. Okay, but I think I'm more likely to get along with black people better than Sully. Like the IRL, I'm gonna get along with black people better. And then I also want to say that I think Sasha was way more likely to just say it than everyone else in the room. So that's my.
So we all agree Sam is the most likely person to find a black guy to say to himself, "This fucking N-word."
I mean, in this room, I think Andrew might be in this room.
All right, so you're saying
attention to the Olympic Games.
Not like outracing both sun and earth. Like, not even a contest.
No, you have like the gold medal for life. Okay, you're not even.
I appreciate it.
Sasha saying it upon. Hello, hey, how you doing? This is fucking January. Makes sense. That makes sense.
That's a good game though, Cokie.
Oh, it's the best.
It's a real fun game.
Yeah.
It must be great, like, after dinner.
All right. A harder head-to-head, guys. Millard versus Albedo.
That's a good one. I'm gonna have to give it to Millard.
Yeah, but Millard's been cooking. I wanted to actually kind of offer some kind of defense. Well, it's not really a defensive sound, but it like made it a little bit easier. Even more interesting, which is that like Sully has rapped Busta Rhymes lyrics that actually include the N-word. But it's a sound I've actually never heard. I knew that was going to come.
I thought we went past this. I thought it was unanimous.
Actually,
I thought it was unanimous.
But you behind your back.
No, I just
But see, that was completely accidental. In fact, like when that happened, prior to it happening, I was like, I don't want to do this because it has the N-word. And they were like, no, just stop at the first N-word. Just stop at the and I'm reading it, right? I'm reading it up and trying to rap. And I was doing Ron Burgundy.
Sully was basically goaded by two black people into saying the N-word.
It was not. Well, one of those black people was Andrew.
Okay, two black people and one pasty white.
Voted or given permission? It sounds like
it was Carlton.
It was funny because it was like one of those situations where they're like, he's like, no, I don't want to say it accidentally. They're like, don't do it. You can just stop before. He does it. He accidentally like fucking says it, and then everybody's like, oh, whoa!
What do you mean?
See, that was
disgusting. Because historically.
Hey, look, I'm not. Look, it's not. I wasn't making a criticism.
I just wanted to make it. I still think like Sam's the overall favorite, quote unquote, but quote unquote. But Millet and Albedo, goddamn, yeah, Millet called me the N-word before. He's also called me the K-word.
It would take a lot from Millet, but he would definitely succumb to his inner desires before Albedo.
Yeah. You think Cloud has more self-control than I do?
In that department, most definitely.
Cloud has more self-control than everybody, but I think I'm pretty sure there's at least a fourth about there's a demon living in somewhere in Albedo. Albedo's brain or something. It's every once in a while it'll come out somebody will make a really off-color joke and then he'll join in really emphatically when you didn't expect him to. So I think
no, but I feel like the best measure.
Of mine.
No, but I feel like the best
Piper, I mean. Fuck you.
I think you want my.
Hey, Albedo, are we not able to tell the difference between trans people anymore, Albedo?
No, I'm sorry.
What about Truthy versus Sam?
It's all the same.
No, I think Ewa is
Truthy versus Sam.
Everybody versus Sam.
Ewa might be before me. I think it's before me.
Ewa before you? No. I think it.
Ewa genuinely doesn't like people, whereas I kind of like people, so he's more likely to be frustrated by a black man, and so, he'll just be
He's more enlightened than you.
Ewa isn't like.
Is this thing I'm talking about me right now?
He said Ewa.
Yes, he is talking about you.
Who is Bob Saget.
I know he's not talking about me right now.
No, he is.
So Sam or Truthy? Who says it first?
What's the game?
Truthy will say
This fucking
I'm
N-word.
pretty sure Truthy just said it before Sam ever.
This is some casting of aspersions.
The game is called This Fucking N-Word, and it's basically head-to-head competitions between two white guys about who would say it first in their head upon getting into some sort of verbal altercation with a black guy.
For sure, Sam. Unquestionable.
Duty stays N-word.
I think he's on level where the black guy says, "Hey, what's up, Tristan?" He's like, "This fucking dude. This fucking dude. Hey, what's up? Hey, what's up?"
Racist casting dispersions on my character. Tricky name to get run through the dog. This crazy.
Okay, Venus versus Hela. Who's
Oh, Venus.
That's not even a competition.
Venus versus Sasha. What's that? Venus versus Sasha.
I'm in the locker room and they're giving him the gold medal.
Nah, Venus. Like Venus is
It's gonna be me. You know, so many times I thought it's just
Exactly. As you should.
Okay, is Venus second place? Is Venus in second place after Sasha? Is there anyone?
Wait. Are we doing ER? Just an N one.
It's in your head.
In your head, it's ER, but for conversational purposes.
Venus maybe not so much. Venus
Let me take it in a different direction. So between Sayla and Zeleny, who says it's first? Who thinks?
Zeleny.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know Sailor that well.
Okay, so Sayla's gonna be like, listen, I love all the N words. You know what I mean? Like,
What's the name you can say? You fucking the church fathers thought you were an
Church fathers thought that it was actually the one position to go black people dead.
Oh, that's Zeleny, bro. Is he still arguing homosexuality is permitted in the Bible as per Jonathan and David?
Why do you ask him yourself? I think he's in here.
No, I didn't know he was speech. What are you talking about? He thinks the entire Democratic platform at any particular time is in the Bible.
Concrete, what is this game called?
This fucking N-word. This fucking N-word. It's like what the Republicans thought every time Obama gave a speech for the first couple of years.
This is probably the most boring game to ever play in children.
You remember when it was a political scandal that Obama wore a tan suit? You remember?
No. What was the thing they were doing where he ate a hot dog and it was with he didn't use mustard or something, and Fox News was pissed off about that or
It
something?
wasn't an American dog.
Fox News segment was the tan suit. He wore a tan suit one time, and it was like a 3-week-long thing. 3-week-long scandal.
It's not presidential, Miller. Okay, you need the office of the presidency to sort of project American power. Okay.
The office of the president.
You get the point.
If you have been bestowed the honor of United States president, you need to gargle on that pig meat with some mustard slathered on it.
Dude, just think about it this way, right? Like Bill Clinton was almost impeached for lying under oath, or was impeached, right? So I think technically he was impeached.
He was.
Or lying under
He was impeached for that.
about getting a blowjob. How many times has Donald Trump lied under oath, bro? It's crazy. How can they not catch him out for lying once?
He would never lie under oath.
You would never.
Do you ever see him take a deposition? He doesn't lie under oath. He just says, I can't remember.
I'd rather not see Donald Trump take a deposition, but I just want to
Oh,
report
it's good stuff.
that
Look it up.
in the chat, Zeleny said, Jesus was more progressive than the Dem platform, both economically and culturally.
That's true.
Oh boy.
The Dem platform.
Trump is a man of style and taste. That's why he would never
Did
wear
say
a
that.
suit.
Trump we need to.
Trump is a man of smelly.
You know what they should do? Is they should extend under.
Come on,
You know,
guys.
We need to welcome our friend Tobias here. We need to shout out to one third of the fruit patch, which is guava, down in the audience. And
Tobias, are you a theist or an atheist?
Or a dirty.
he doesn't believe in. He doesn't think in evidence. The only thing counts as evidence is
yes.
100% certainty.
Oh, that guy? Oh, yo, let's go.
Milo, you thought that Morpheus was doing atheist tropes and all this stuff or whatever cliches. It is the case that
This guy dodges arguments
Tobias is pretty gangster. He said if this was his claim. Are you ready, Milo?
This Tobias guy.
Hold on. There is
Trudy, have you heard about this Tobias guy?
Hold on, son. There is zero evidence for theism.
Zero.
And
There's no evidence, Trudy.
hold on.
Can you believe?
Hold on, buddy. Testimony is not evidence.
Of course not.
And it's probably going to be similar to what Morpheus said, which Morpheus said, and I quote, not really, but
It's like he needs something weird by evidence. It's like he's using that word a different way or something.
Hold on. Arguments are not evidence. There you go.
Right.
Uncle Morpheus.
Are you sprinting, Andrew? What in the world?
I am. I'm working. Sorry.
He's racing against the game.
He's sprinting into the old lady's house and stealing all of her roots.
He's sprinting to the nearest black guy to have a couple.
Have a couple what?
A couple of thoughts.
Yeah, well, I'm running from Michaela. I took some stuff from her and she's coming after me, so.
I just love all the kinds. I just think all the kinds are great. And listen, you're a guy, I'm a guy. We're all get along.
Shut up. Tobias, do you want to maintain? It's good to see you, buddy. Do you want to maintain your position that there is quote zero evidence for theism unquote?
Tobias, what do you mean by evidence? What do you think evidence means?
So let's not.
Hey, Andrew, let's be.
Let's not.
Toxic. I'm toxic.
You come after me for toxic charity.
You're going after Tobias. He's our guest. You're going after him. I'm trying to be hospitable.
No.
Well, I'm trying to be hospitable. I do think he deserves hospitality, Andrew.
Yes, but I do. But I just want to say that Sully, the thing is
you're acting like I'm doing something untoward towards you by giving him hospitality, which makes it seem like you don't want to be hospitable.
He doesn't need to be coddled. He's got the testicular fortitude to come in here guns blazing. Okay, so what I'm saying is, let's just let him have at it. It's all good. So, I just want to know, Tobias.
You can do it.
Yeah, you can do it, brother. Tobias, do you think that testimony is evidence?
Explain what evidence means.
Evidence raises the probability of a particular conclusion.
Not you. Not you. Him.
Oh, okay.
One reason why Sully beats me in the competition is because I have way more black friends on this app than.
You still thinking about it?
That's not true. Wait a minute. Look through my friends.
He's got no black friends on this app.
Oh, you're doing. Oh, I see what you're doing.
Look, I think everybody granted, blacks are gonna think you're a nicer guy, but you fly off the handle. It's definitely gonna be just fucking inward.
Hey,
for that measure, you should go by my friends list. Let me direct you to my friends.
Hey, brother, are you able to talk?
Yeah, I'm
We
kind of
didn't
just.
actually finish the psychophysical harmony stuff.
Yeah.
I came in to fix our sprinters and then disrupted all of them.
Yeah, I'm kind of just listening, man. I'm up for talking about whatever as well. I don't know what you guys are discussing.
If your blender short-circuited, hopefully you have some sprinkles.
Here's my question for you, Tobias. Do you think the fact that you have 4 billion plus whatever people believing in God, that counts as some evidence for the existence of God?
No.
I think again, from the other day, I think we have a disagreement on what the term evidence, the different types of evidence, and the importance of that. I think it might have some correlation to evidence, but on a very small level, nowhere near enough to justify anything like that. I need a lot more.
What do you think about it is evidence, but what do you think about the fine-tuning argument?
What do you think of the fine-tuning argument? Elaborate on what that is, and I'll say
that the universe
tuned with all the constants, just all the constraints and everything in such a way that it allows for human life to arise.
Yeah, the universe is fine tuned for Holocaust. It's perfect.
I think it can appear that way, but I think that's still a claim and an assumption that it's designed specifically in a way that could only be designed by something or someone. But again, that's just a presumption based on something we know very little about.
What are you going to say now, Kitover?
Well, we know very little about it, but
Wait, what's a presumption?
That it has to have been designed.
But what is a presumption?
What is a presumption? It's an assumption. You're assuming something based on a small amount of information.
What's an assumption?
Why don't you go look it up on Google, bro?
The reason why I'm asking you, because I don't think you're using the word that's applicable to this actual scenario. When we say presume or assume, that doesn't have like an evidentiary basis. Have a conclusion based on evidence in this regard.
Okay, so what do you call coming to a conclusion based on insufficient evidence? What's your
sufficiency or insufficiency is just going to be like subjective position that I don't hold, right? You might hold it, but I don't hold it. So are you going to accuse me of being assumptive or assuming because you think that the evidence is insufficient?
I think if you're concluding large claims based on insufficient evidence, then I would call
What does it mean, large claims? What does that mean?
That something massive and complicated we know very little about came about in one particular way that you've concluded based on insufficient evidence.
When you say massive, you're referring to its size or its importance?
Well, the complexities of the universe. You know how complicated the universe is. You know how little we know about it. We know, I think, 2 to 4% of the observable universe. I mean, it's not.
How much do we need? How much information do we need about the universe to come to a conclusion?
Well, I think to come to any conclusion, you need to have a pretty full comprehension of it. So I would say at least 80-90%.
How would you know you've reached 80-90% of the available information?
Well, at this stage, we wouldn't know because we don't know. I mean, you don't know how could you know? Well, how could you know that you've reached 80-90% of something? Well, I mean,
yeah, something is.
I don't understand the question. What kind of question is that? I don't understand.
You're the one that's laying out.
Yeah, I know. You're asking me how do you know that you've come to 80-90% of knowledge? Like, what's the point in asking that question?
Wait, what?
Oh, you're the one.
You said 80 to 90% of the space has to be explored to be confident, so you know something about it.
So please don't interrupt, or Sam, please don't interrupt. I think this is a
Fuck
very
you, Mel.
good.
I think they're very.
Well, I mean, whether you
concrete.
Sam, shut up.
Mark versus
Well, actually, I did have a question for Tobias.
I think it might be Mark as well. Oh, Mark versus Bebop? Yeah, Mark 100%.
Let's say you are rules in the game where they have to pick.
Mark is kind of Sasha level.
No. Sorry, I just want to say. I just want to say, even if you didn't know whether you came to 80-90% conclusion of something, that's even more of a reason not to make any claims, right?
But you don't
So
know
I don't understand the point of the question. None of us know anything.
Okay,
But I don't claim to know anything either.
You hear that, Andrew? He doesn't know anything.
He's like Socrates.
But you don't know.
Oh, you guys know
where your
everything.
mom is right now.
It's written in the book. You guys know everything.
Do you know where you are right now?
Do you know where you are right now?
Yeah, I'm at home, bro.
Cool, I'm at home, bro.
This guy's amazing.
I'd say I know that.
Yes, he knows.
You don't know that?
Yeah. too. I'm at home.
Tobias,
Wait, what?
We do know.
Yeah, but Tobias is 90% of his home, right? So he's fine to say he's there.
No, he doesn't know it. No, but no, he doesn't know if he knows. If he knows.
Do you think knowledge requires certainty? Tobias?
Do I think knowledge requires certainty? A certain amount of certainty in order to feel confident in that knowledge, yeah.
Would you say like 80 to 90%?
How do you know that 80 to 90% is like the right range here? How do you know that?
But your question was how can you be certain of a claim? How?
Knowledge. Do you think knowledge requires certainty?
Knowledge in and of itself, no. I think you can have a good understanding of how something works without having full knowledge of it. I never claimed knowledge.
Okay, well, wait. Tell me something that you know.
I don't know. I have a 10-inch cock. What about you?
Okay.
I know your mom, Andrew.
Yeah. Do you know that God doesn't exist?
I know her in the biblical sense.
No, but do you know that he does? Do you know that he does exist?
Yes. But do you know that he doesn't?
No, but you claim to know that he does. I don't claim that. Your mom doesn't claim that.
But wait, do you just believe that he doesn't?
I think there's insufficient evidence to suggest that he does.
Well, yeah. Well, why aren't you just an agnostic?
Because I view agnosticism as a sort of 50-50 stance, and I think there's a far higher chance that he doesn't exist than he does, but I don't claim that he doesn't exist.
What tilted to be higher towards atheism?
The fact that I don't believe there's sufficient evidence to suggest one way in which this universe came about. I think it could be multiple possibilities, and I think that's just focusing on one possibility.
But why would they? Do you have an expectation that you would see certain evidences that you don't see? Is that the idea? Because why would you think just because you don't see evidence for God? I mean, it could be a deistic kind of God that just created the universe and kicked off, walked away like an absentee father. How would you? Why are you saying that because you don't view any kind of empirical evidence or you don't see anything that would lead to a God? Why is it the case that you think therefore God doesn't exist, or that it pushes forward towards atheism? Why wouldn't you just stay agnostic?
Because again, it's focusing on one conclusion, and I think there's zero compelling evidence to suggest that one conclusion is more compelling than any other human imagination-made reasoning for how this came about. So I think it's just as irrelevant as saying the tooth fairy created it.
But that wouldn't mean that atheism has any higher probability just because we can't narrow down some conclusion.
But it depends on how you define atheism. I don't define atheism as saying there is no. I don't think that's the modern consensus of the term atheism. I think atheism is saying the burden of proof is on the person making the claim. Atheism is stating that atheism is still.
Atheism is not begging anything. Atheism is the person. Fucking idiot.
Well, why can't I just say theism? Theism is just saying that I'm not convinced that atheism is true. And if you're going to make the claim against me, then you need to bear the burden. If you're saying that God doesn't exist, which you're not, you're just saying you're not convinced, well, I'll just say I'm not convinced that atheism is true.
But atheism isn't a belief system.
Atheism is a belief. So why can't I just say to you, Tobias, that I think that God, to me, it's some kind of, it's self-evident truth that God exists. and I haven't heard any good arguments against God. So I'm just going to maintain this position. You haven't convinced me that atheism is true. So therefore, I'm a theist.
You're welcome to take that stance. I have nothing against that.
It's pretty lame, though, right? It's pretty lame, though, right?
Yeah, it is pretty lame, Andrew. It's super lame.
Yeah, it's a lame stance to take.
The reason for that is because of the null hypothesis, right?
Well, what kind of...
All hypotheses.
Yeah, I don't know about all that. No. But I'm just going to say... What kind of conversation can we have, Tobias, if both parties are doing the same thing?
Oh, I'm mainly here just to listen to
I'm not talking about you in particular necessarily. I'm just saying in general. If theists and atheists did that, and that's all we did, everybody just, they bunkered down in their position and just said, well, I'm just not convinced of the opposing position. How would that work out? Do you think that would work very good dialectically? You think we'd have engaging conversations, like expressing reasons for and against?
Well, again, I think with atheism, they're not making the claim. So it's interesting for people like me to listen to what you guys have to say and how it is that you're convinced that this is how things came about. I find it entertaining. I find it interesting. I learn stuff. But again, atheism isn't a belief system. It's just stating they don't believe in one particular thing.
Did you not hear him the first time, Andrew?
What?
What are you doing?
Well,
Andrew is trouble.
Like Andrew,
in that photo.
wait, I don't know why any theists would want to do that. If they do that.
Why?
It will now be clear that that's just a great tactic, because that's not really what they think Jesus exists. They think everything like that. And it just comes to the debate and say, well, atheists, we're just going to copy you. Because
but the point is, the point is it's a response to what they're doing. He wants to herald the banner of atheism and kind of have that historical punch that there is no God. But then when you press, but when you there's different ways of saying it. But when you
how dare you?
Quit gerrymandering my words. Stop gerrymandering my words. But
that's more you're more DS than me. You just got corrected on pronunciation by a fucking dyslexic animal.
DS in the guava sense or DS in the way that you are with the
Can you let Andrew say, Andrew? Can you let Andrew finish what he was saying?
Sorry. Okay, I'm just saying that Jacob, to me, is that this new atheist thing of saying I'm an atheist is just a way of having the historical philosophical definition punch, but then when you press them, it's I'm not convinced. And I find that to be very...
No, but you know what, you're kind of like putting him in a box, like new atheist, like if you put some label and some banner and it's like,
yes.
That's all he did from the word go. Like, I don't think he backtracked and said, oh, God doesn't exist, that's my strong position, then he went to that. It's kind of like you're like, you have to do that. So, in philosophical discussion, you kind of have situations that, okay, that allows things, right, where my pastor makes claims that he can show that an intimate part is not possible. And my pastor doesn't have to take a certain stance saying that, oh, an intimate part really is true. He just says, well, these things that Greg is basing his claim on, they don't seem to be good enough. And my pastor, I don't know either way. So you can do that. That's a valid philosophical way to argue. You don't have to say, oh no, because I want to take a strong stance and say God exists. The other guy has to say God doesn't exist. So no. You don't need to do that.
You're right. I don't think that's right, Jacob. So
we should play conference game. Apple or not, with the mappers and Greg, Jacob, right? Andrew, no.
Also, they're not just saying it doesn't it's unlikely that it exists. They're also saying that the probability of that being the case is extremely low as well. It's not like, oh, yeah, you might 50%, you might be right, Andrew. 50%, you might be wrong. Atheists are saying that there's probably a 0.1% chance that you're right.
Well, wait a second, because you're also saying, so Jacob, the reason I have a problem with what you're saying is because, look, it is the case that he's not just saying that I'm not convinced. I mean, that's not fair to just say that's all he has to discharge, because it is the case, because there's nothing there, right? It is the case that to make that claim, to even make the claim in the first place, you're saying that you have surveyed the evidence to some, you've done your due diligence, and you've come to a conclusion that it's not sufficient to convince you that God exists. Well, if that's true, and Piper's good at pointing this out, then he needs to give defense. He needs to give a reason as to why he wasn't convinced by these various arguments that have been around for millennia. And you can't just say,
you need to present the arguments. You need to present the arguments. Andrew, you need to present the arguments. You need to present compelling arguments.
That's what I was about to say. You can take it one at a time. Is it the Kalam? Then you divide that.
Yeah, so
start bringing them out one by one, then you'll do it.
Well,
it's not going to do it.
I think the thing is, Jacob, is that when I say, why do you not believe? He can say, well, I just don't think the evidence has been compelling. And they typically leave it at that. But it's like they just said...
You normally say, well, that's just repeating that you don't believe in. It's like the same thing.
Yeah, the same way saying I don't believe in the tooth fairy or the spaghetti monster.
No, I'm saying, no. Saying, why don't you believe it? And your response is, I'm not convinced. It just tells you the same thing. You don't believe it.
Yeah. And you're not giving any kind of, there's no content to interact with there, and it's not my job to drum it out. If we're having a conversation, it's kind of lame to just sit there as the judge. And I'm not saying you, I'm not putting this towards you, Tobias. I'm just saying generally speaking. It's kind of lame to just sit there in the judge seat, like as they say, God in the dock or whatever. You're sitting there and you're going to evaluate and you're going to say, well, you prove it to me, and I'm going to tell you all that's wrong. I'm just going to discredit everything you throw at me. It's very much more easy to do that.
Andrew, that is right. Wait, what is the kind of that kind of low priors argument that what is that to?
That's
what that does is puts it back into it's an argument, but in the end, the job of that argument is to put the ball back in the court of the theists, saying, well, before looking at any evidence, it looks like your side is worse. So have you done anything to overturn that? The ball is back in your court, and then you have to start looking at the Kalam, the Martin, and then you keep going.
No, but Jacob, if somebody thinks that just given the sheer mass of adherence to God and they have these intuitions from very early, like myself, and just say, you know what, this is just properly basic. And it's going to be the case that you need to give some argumentation to show me why what I believe is so self-evident, it's axiomatic, it's just base level, intuitive, there's nothing, I don't need to give you an argument as to why it's true. You need to give me an argument as to why it's not true. I need to be vanishingly small as far as a worldwide population. And it's like, if you want to talk about,
don't lie.
Should happen.
I don't think it is small, bro. I think the percentage is actually
it's irrelevant.
Exponential.
That point is completely
irrelevant. It is relevant. Why does he get to, hold on, why does he get to have, why did the atheist get to assume that atheism is true and that the only one making a claim are the theists? Why is that?
Well, I already said because the atheists are the ones making the claim.
No, look, do I need to say, look,
Andrew, it's just a null hypothesis.
But the thing, can I just say, I don't come into rooms like this disrespectfully. Like can I kind of speak my sense, Alex? Andrew, sorry. I'm very aware that there are some extremely intelligent religious people around, and I'm open ears, man. I want to hear you guys. I learn as well. I learn as well. I don't come in here as like a troll. I don't agree with atheists that do that. I'm not that stupid.
Right. So Andrew, it's like an epistemic standard, right, for a lot of people that
a claim or something, or like something that's like said to exist, right, is assumed not to exist unless there's evidence for it. That's the null hypothesis.
Yeah, okay, unless there's evidence.
Yeah, but who gets the shit?
What do you mean who gets the shit?
Wait a second.
He's saying it sounds good, but it doesn't carry any weight other than the people who give the shit.
No, that's why one side is more of a burden, to be obvious.
Miller, does somebody need to give? Do I need to give arguments as to why?
Okay, why should we accept that principle? Go ahead.
You don't have to accept that principle.
Okay, so
okay, but Miller,
you're making the claim.
Miller, why do I not? Why do people need to give arguments as to why the sun? Hold on. Why do people not have to give arguments as to why the sun does not exist? Why can't I just say, look, I'm sorry, the sun exists. Do I need to give arguments that the sun exists?
No, I guess not. Like not in all contexts.
There's sufficient evidence to suggest the sun does exist.
Yeah, but that's
Sufficient evidence, but like he's equivalent.
Because it can be scientifically verified. It can be tested consistently.
That's not the
Test the sun.
That's not the only way.
We can test heat. We can test heat waves. We can test particles. We can test distance. We can test
We
size.
don't test it, bro. We see it. We know it's there, bro.
Yeah, we can feel it. You can see it. We need it to survive. I mean, come on, man.
Science isn't the only way to truth. Okay. So, because if you say that it is, how do you prove that statement? So, like, it isn't the case that you need to be able to scientifically show something for it to be the case. Okay, you can conclude something based on. There's other ways. There's the rational discourse and different things that you can come to conclusions apart from empirical evidence, or at least in that way. You don't need to be able to scientifically verify, observe, and repeat and all this stuff. That's not the case.
Who does that other than scientists? I mean, if it's a scientist's job to confirm scientific studies, and you're saying that these things can be tested without science, who are the people doing the research and coming up with these conclusions? You speak.
Wait, what?
What are you talking about? That's not what I was saying.
You said there are other ways other than science to determine whether or not something exists, right?
Yeah, well, I'm asking, do you think that science is the only? Yes, that is what I'm saying. But do you think that science is the only way to come to a conclusion? It's like the only way to find truth.
I think it's the best method we currently have.
Okay, best method. Okay, that means you leave it open in other ways. So
that's what I'm asking you. That's what I'm asking you. Other than scientists, who would you rely on to deliver deliver conclusions and things that can be determined without science? That was my question.
Grandma, my mom, you, Andrew.
Intuition.
Science. Intuition.
Yeah,
I didn't do any science when I just looked at the clock and I was like.
Okay, so what are these discoveries that you, me, Grandma, and whoever else are what are these discoveries you're speaking of? What are they?
I don't know. Like maybe he's just telling me like how to make a cookie.
Okay.
I'm so confused why what Milith was saying is controversial. Like,
yeah, it's
not controversial. It's just not something that we have to appeal to, and it seems like he's trying to use it as something we must, bow down to, and we're subject to the null hypothesis.
Yeah. So what about Deepak? If I say the sun exists, and why don't I have a burden to prove to somebody who says the sun doesn't exist? Why don't I have a burden?
Because that person lives in a shared sort of physical and cultural context with you, where you presume that they already
they experience it whether they have
exactly what. I haven't finished the sentence. I don't know exactly what.
You already figured out what you're saying. Like, you don't have to be elaborate.
No, please.
That's fine. Sorry, Deepak. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, look. Okay. Let me put it this way. Like, the fact that you said exactly means that, like, I don't know if you understood what I said, because, like, I'm confused why you would say exactly that. Like, if it's true that, okay, so if it's true, so what I'm saying is that it's the reason you don't have a burden to explain it to them is because they know the same evidence that you know, right? That the sun exists.
Okay. Okay, and what I'm saying is in cultures where the majority is theistic, they don't need to be convinced. They have the shared culture of understanding that it's self-evident that God exists, and anybody who opposes that is the one that bears the burden. That's why I'm saying, like, you tell me the asymmetry.
Yeah, but okay, look,
I don't.
yeah, okay, symmetry. Okay, the asymmetry is here. So then, what the if you're like extending the analogy to what's happening here, right? Like Tobias is like I don't know, like Helen Keller, right? She hasn't seen the sun, or maybe like maybe she lived her life. And so like basically he doesn't have that shared evidence that you can already appeal to, right? It goes without saying. So for him to believe that the sun exists, right? Like you have to find some way of like giving him that empirical evidence, right? Some other way of doing that.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about the burden though, and I'm saying why, Andrew? But why is it? Okay, go ahead. Sorry. Let Deepak go.
No, because look, I mean, from Tobias's perspective, from his epistemic standpoint, right? Like he doesn't know, he's not aware of any evidence in the sun that God exists, and he has a somewhat low prior, right? That like God exists.
I was gonna say something.
Enough for him to like.
Why does his low prior get to place the burden on me, given the fact that I have the majority on my side? Not that really matters, but I'm just saying the majority's on my side, so empirically it looks like people are aware of what's true by my lights. And somebody who wants to come across and say,
if you want to say that like the fact that other people believe that God exists, right? Is some evidence that God in fact does exist. I mean that's fine, but I don't know.
That's not what I mean. That's not what I mean. I mean in the same way.
You're saying the prior can't change because other people believe things, right? What other people's beliefs are evidence, right?
Well, no. What I'm saying is the theist has a prior probability of God existing very, very, like we're saying,
okay,
like,
No, but the whole point, Andrew, is that like
he's just defending the evasiveness of this guy.
Like it's a pretty standard like atheist approach, right? Like reasoning to say that like the reason that they think God is unlikely to exist is because the prior probability of God as a metaphysical thesis is low, and there's no evidence that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So why is that? Like,
Andrew's sole goal here is just like claim that just being like there's a burden. Like, there is a burden if you're making a claim, and if atheism is the claim then like then you have a burden to prove it.
I take that abstract sense. Yeah. Okay, so you're saying the atheist needs to justify the low prior? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the whole
I mean, I don't think it's too hard, but yeah.
Yeah, it's very easy to do. A and like B, like there's Andrew's big point about how the amount of people in a society can like tell us where the burden is on a claim.
I didn't say that was a major part. I'm just saying that's something.
Well, that's just silly. Like the whole point is, if someone's giving you the low priors argument, right? They're also going to be giving you like some understanding of like how they like assess probabilities, right?
Yeah, but he's saying that's an argument. Can we just get to the low priors argument? I like to hear somebody.
But that's just that's an argument. That's the
point.
He
hasn't given that argument.
No. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Whatever.
What? Like I feel like no one knows what anyone else is even arguing for. It's like no one's saying things that are necessarily wrong, but it's just like are they actually directed towards the thing that the other people are saying?
Yeah. Okay. So
like,
hopefully you can help me.